and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Here.
Counselor Angeloni.
Here.
Counselor Caprio. Counselor Duty.
Here.
Counselor Esposito. Counselor Fawnin.
Here.
Counselor Fuji. Counselor Sienna.
Here.
May I have a motion to approve the June 4th regular WPCA Town Council meeting?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes with the following corrections. On page 5, item C, it should be EDO 49, not 40. And on page 6, the motion in item B, the vote should be, it failed 0 to 6 instead of 6 to 0.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Fawnin with the amendments. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
She said yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Duty.
Abstain.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
Regular Town Council meeting. Item 3, reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Item A, Economic Development Commission.
The Economic Development Commission finally met last night. They had a problem with last week. And you're talking about having Mr. Redden, who's going to be invited to it. And you're going to have a lot of more information in the coming weeks because they're meeting again every next week. So it's going to be sometime in September. We know that.
Was the professor from Yale?
Yeah.
Is he coming or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be talking with him and inviting him to the next meeting. And I thought it was a good meeting. And again, the energy is still high. The group was there despite the weather. They met, and we'll continue to look at, the charrette processes, where they'll be focusing their energies at this point.
Item B, Permanent Project Building Committee.
Permanent Project Building Committee met last week in regards to the STW conversion. They're getting another quote on the windows, the film for the windows. And then they also, it was already approved at our special meeting to schedule the removal of the tank, the ramp, and the doors, and Fran Marola is working on that. The tank is scheduled to come out on June 25th. And he also has contracted with Munger to replace the handicap door access, and he's working on the ramp. So that project is moving along. They should be finished painting. They were almost finished last week, so that was, and then the contractor would be done with his part of the issue. There was an issue with the air handlers as far as being able to plug in, because right now they were on a extension cord, so there was a change order for approximately $1,800, which the committee felt was excessive, to actually change the plug and put a longer cord on it so it could reach, and that work is going to be done just through the bid process that the town had, where they contracted with businesses for trade work, electrical work, and it could probably be done for a couple $100. So all of this right now is still being funded out of the contingency fund, those items.
Thank you. Item C is Finance Committee.
Finance Committee met last week, and on our agenda for tonight, there's appropriation transfers. Later on, we also have the suspense list, and we discussed the administrator wages, and what's going to happen with that is the committee from the administrators will be meeting with Finance Committee at the July meeting, and then that will come back to the council. And there's also going to be a request for proposal put out on the OPEB trust as far as for to get bids to manage that account to try and reduce the fees schedules. So that information will also come back to the Finance Committee and then ultimately to the council. And that was it.
Thank you. And item D, Communications Committee. They did not meet. Item 4, Town Manager's Report. Item A, Route 80 update.
Right, this meeting you have in your packet, this synopsis is submitted by Kurt on terms of the Route 80 139 widening project, rather than me read it to you. It was advanced to you for as part of the packet, so you have a chance to read that through, and then if you had any questions, Kurt is here. He's had some subsequent communication in the meetings. And also at this time, probably a good idea to talk about Route 80 with respect to the impact that you're hearing about with respect to the fire company. And Chief Seward's here as well tonight, so if you want to have him give a report or speak to that, or if you have any questions of that, they're working on a strategy. And I think it may be helpful if you hear directly from the chief as to what's transpiring there.
I had emailed everyone on the council about the firehouse company one, and Chief, if you don't mind, in regards to public safety, there was a meeting held with the contractor, and there's been an ongoing situation with the volunteers getting to the firehouse, and now we've discovered another hurdle that we come across.
Good evening. As the mayor and town manager alluded, in testifying before you on a number of occasions, I had stated that with the impact to the Route 80 construction project with regards to providing life safety for this community, it poses an unreasonable risk. Most recently, and by that I mean by the middle of May, I received a letter personally from Career Construction advising me as the fire chief that construction in front of company number 1 was to commence. Other than the initial meeting with an engineer that is involved in the state project to take a measurement from the lowest point on our aerial truck, which is the largest at company 1, so a measurement was taken from the lowest point of the truck to grade level. There's been no communication between the state and myself as fire chief. I know there's been communication between the person that's responsible for administration at company 1, but not me as fire chief. So in the last couple of weeks, there's been information that come across my desk that really now places us in peril. So with that said, a couple meetings have taken place over the last 2 weeks between myself, members of the staff of Company 1, DOT representatives, and a representative from Career Construction. And as everyone knows, the impact on the traffic with the construction has been a nightmare. There have been at least 2 incidents that a delayed response by both the fire and police department have been observed as a result of the construction and decreasing path of the roadway. We know that as construction in front of the firehouse commences, there'll be additional issues. Some of those are the fact that Career states they're going to work from the west side of the firehouse to the east side of the firehouse. The overall length of time of the construction is estimated to be 5 weeks. So if we look at the apparatus that responds out of Company 1, and keeping in mind that Company 1 responds to about 60% of all the fire calls that take place in our community, there's an obvious need to make sure that we can get members in and out of the station, and apparatus can move freely 24/7 during the construction phase. So this is what looks like is going to happen. If you face the front of the firehouse on the right-hand side, which is the Tilcon Bridge side, we're going to call that the west side of the station. They're going to work on that construction first. And when I say work on the construction, if you're standing at the apparatus door bay inside the firehouse and look out, there's about a 24-inch wide concrete pad that exits the firehouse before it turns to asphalt. From that point to a point that's identified in the road by pink spray paint, that west side of the apron will be dug out. It's estimated from Career's construction that there'll be an 18-inch drop as you exit the firehouse to the point in the roadway on the west side of the firehouse to a depth of about 2 feet at root 8. So that eliminates the apparatus coming out of 3 bays of the firehouse. So in the west side of the firehouse, there is our ladder, there is our medium-duty rescue, and our special hazards unit. So because those 3 bays will be inaccessible, I'm going to take the rescue and move it to one of the bays in the east side, where our light-duty rescue is. Parked behind that presently is our brush truck. I'm going to move that from the station to another location, probably the empty bay at Ambulance Company 4. The Special Hazards Unit will be moved out of Company 1 and will be relocated to Station 3 for the duration of the construction. Because the largest vehicle in Company 1 is the ladder truck, measures about 14 feet in width with the doors opened up and about 52 feet in length, and dual axle, it needs a lot of room for a turning radius. So based upon the anticipated construction, the anticipated logistics involves Guerrero being responsible for erecting a temporary shelter in the back of the firehouse. And unbeknownst to many of us, I was provided with a copy of the contract that states, notice the contractor, fire station access. The contractor is hereby notified that access to and from the firehouse is required at all times unless authorized. Any response to disrupt operations of the station shall be made in writing at least 30 days in advance. Authorization shall be in written form only and must be signed by all of the following: North Branford first elected official, fire chief of the affected station, an individual's name, and then the district supervising engineer. This was new to us this past week. So from providing fire services by moving the aerial to the back and having this temporary shelter put in place with doors front and back, as they move from the west to the east side, we'll be able to move our apparatus safely from the east to the west, because the west will be completed and paved, and put the ladder to the back of the station. So as the transfer of work from east to west side, the facing direction of the vehicle that's located in the back of the firehouse will be able to access from its normal location. If I didn't do that, my other option is to take that ladder truck and put it at Station 2. The overall height of the ladder truck is 11 feet 8 inches. The overall height of the door at Company 2 is 11 feet 9 inches. There's 1 inch to spare. In my estimation, it's too close for comfort. So to keep the ladder where it belongs in Company 1's district is the best option at this time. If we move it to the other side of town, it involves training people, and that's not an easy procedure. It would take weeks to get that done. If we relocated it to another facility, i.e. Public Works, it would mean people traveling that are qualified to operate that vehicle from their district in Company 1 to Public Works, getting access to probably the wash bay, and getting out and responding back. It's a 3-mile travel distance between Company 1 and Public Works, not only considering that, but the time delay it would take to get the apparatus to the other location. That's unacceptable to me. So the only feasible option I'm looking at right now to provide adequate coverage in this town for the fire department for that vehicle is to keep it in a temporary housed location to the back of Company 1. We can provide electricity to keep it on charge as required. It would be a safe environment, and Guerrero would also be responsible for providing temporary lighting to keep that area lit, because the apparatus would need to be accessible 24 hours a day for personnel. In the meantime, we would also need to coordinate access to the station parking areas to our members while the construction is going on. And I put an emphasis to both DOT reps and Guerrero that not only apparatus getting out is important, but making sure our members can get in. We looked at a couple other options which were totally unacceptable. I'll entertain any questions.
So have you looked at the pitch of to back in, of the new pitch to back in to the station?
The only thing that we've been told by the engineer is that based upon his measurements and going back to his CAD drawings, is that there shouldn't be an issue.
But you realize when you're backing in, the steeper the pitch,
I totally realize
you need
that.
the
That's an issue
you
right
need the
now.
clearance on the inside.
Again, I'll restate, the engineer said there shouldn't be an issue. I don't have a guarantee in writing that there won't be an issue. So the question becomes, if there's an issue, what action do we have?
And we have a new apparatus coming.
Yeah, but this is
Same
actually lower.
measurements.
Yeah, the aerial is actually lower.
The only one they're gonna have a problem with is the one they have an inch clearance with now. And
Yeah,
as it-
again,
As
this
it backs
is
up a
apparatus.
steeper
Yeah,
pitch, it
right.
needs a steeper pitch to get in.
The apparatus is 52 feet long, so as you both pull out and reverse, the lowest point is going to be the exhaust system and the tailboard on the apparatus.
And the clearance on the roof,
Pardon?
and the clearance on the ceiling.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have an issue there. My concern is going grade from Route 80 onto the apparatus apron. Yeah, that's a 16-foot door there.
But basically, we're not gonna know that until they're done.
They're done, yeah.
And there's security with the vehicle behind us, the firehouse. Is there security?
Yes, we're working with Greer on that. And believe me, the representative from Greer, Stacy Epps from DOT, Nat Page from DOT have been excellent to work with. And again, DOT placing emphasis to Greer, it's their responsibility by contract to make the reasonable accommodation.
So this will be taking place pretty soon.
As soon as it's signed off, they're ready to begin.
Just one quick question. This is all done with no cost to the town, correct?
That's correct. And I made that clear to them. It's their responsibility. And the other point, even though Company One's going to be signing off on this, DOT did tell me that because the property is technically owned by Tilcon, they have to bring it back to Tilcon as well, even though the property is leased by Company One from Tilcon.
Now, John, once we sign off on this, and let's say there is a problem with the pitch, then what? Like, how is that corrected, or?
Well, you're going to have to get permission from the state to sue it. I don't know that the town has been involved in any contract for this. This is something the state has required as part of the widening. I don't know that there was any individual negotiations with regard to that.
My information in a printed form just started coming to me within the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything before this.
Yeah. This obviously affects the health, safety, and welfare of the town. Obviously, the state has an interest in that as well. Your concerns, have they yet been expressed to the officials at the state that are administering this? They have been expressed?
I've stressed time and time again the single fact that the engineer had said it shouldn't affect our operation when the project is done. That's a concern to me.
Okay. Well, it sounds at this point like it's an engineering issue. Has Kurt had an opportunity to speak with the state engineer with whom you've been speaking?
There's been numerous conversations, and actually the pitch of the road, that's been a concern, that was addressed last summer, early on, and they actually took some measurements, re-looked at it, and again, their process, they have a consultant engineer that redesigned it based upon all the information, and basically said it should work.
Do they know the clearance of our trucks?
Yeah, they measured the trucks, they surveyed the area again, because I think there was a concern that they missed something in the initial design, that some of the grades didn't look right, and I know the contractor expressed the same consideration, that we look at it, and DOT has to make it right. The issue, and my understanding, and they've told us that they've taken the measurements a bunch of times, checked it, they have templates they put on the design and say it should work, it should work.
Okay, so what
Then it comes
happens?
down to implementation of it to make sure.
What happens if it doesn't work? Nobody knows, right?
Well, if it's
Well, I would think
if
they
it's
have
the
to-
implementation, then it's a private contractor.
Well, somebody's got
We
to,
should put in writing.
right, somebody's got to either contact the state, contact the contractor, and get something in some type of writing to say that if this job is not done correctly, it has to be fixed. I mean, we can stop this before it happens. We should at least attempt to do this.
Bill, have you been going to the meetings with Kurt and everybody, the weekly
we-
meetings?
I can say that I've never received an invitation from DOT or Guerrero.
You don't have to have an invitation, just go. You should be there, really.
Well, this
I
has
think
been discussed from day one, as far as the clearance and the drive.
And again, I mean, it's
Right, we
it's
just
straight,
need,
very straightforward fact.
Right.
we need to cover ourselves just in case.
Right.
Mike, can you
Right,
make it so we can go to the
Because look at
meetings?
the
Let him know
intermediate
when the
school.
meetings are. He should be
Yeah,
there.
I can be there as well.
'Cause If he
And I know
keeps
in
hounding
front
him,
of
maybe
this
he'll
truck,
find out
there's
what's
a
going to
box
happen.
with all your equipment in it and everything, and
Yeah, but-
that has very minimal.
Yeah, and actually, the big issue is pulling out with the tail board, as I said,
Right.
having contact with the asphalt, and then when you back up, it drops down.
'Cause the apron
And again,
drive
this is the
was-
first time that I've seen anything that has myself, the captain of Company 1, and as it says here, the chief elected official of the town signing off on paperwork for Guerrero. And so one of my concerns was, you know, has it gone to the town attorney? Does everybody know about this?
Let me
Up
just-
until this week, I haven't seen this.
Right.
This was all new to me.
It's maybe a stupid question, but why are they doing it in front of the firehouse? Is there a reason? Is the road up higher or something?
Yeah, they have to,
They're cutting down, you know, sort of the hill in front, as part of the widening, you know, the overall project. It's about a 3-foot cut.
Oh, is that where they started the
And
change?
that's why the utilities, remember, in the spring, were held up, because they had to lower the water line, the
That's
gas
right.
line to accommodate the cut.
And
which
they're,
was in front of
they're
that.
supposed to make the hill beyond that a little less hilly too, aren't they?
Yeah, well,
down
I mean,
toward
the whole
139.
180 is sort of becoming more gradual.
Yeah.
And it affects the firehouse, it affects the entrance to Central Plaza. I think I told you the last meeting that Central Plaza, that access on Route 80, that's going to be temporarily closed while they're doing the work in the firehouse as well. They haven't set a date for that until they work out the requirements with the fire department in terms of what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. They've got to make sure they adequately do that and have all that in place, and then they'll be notifying, I think they've notified the owner, they told me they notified the owner of Central Plaza, but they haven't given the individual businesses dates because they don't have dates yet.
Kurt,
That's why I think, that's why I think you should be there, Bill, because that firehouse, it's suppose an accident happens, and when all that traffic, 5 o'clock comes, what are you gonna do?
We've already experienced
We've
that.
had that.
Well, I know you did, I just bring it
And there's
out.
nothing we can do about it.
No.
I mean, right now, I think we need to have John maybe draft something to protect the town.
Yeah, and that's my biggest concern. Again, I know the engineers, you know, they do a great job, but I haven't seen anything that's gonna guarantee that the truck's not gonna bottom out as it enters and exits the building.
I don't know if
Kurt,
John can even do that. can he?
Kurt, would you expect there to be something in the nature of a performance bond between the state and the private contractor who's implementing
Generally,
this?
there's a performance bond. The state requires the same.
Okay, have we seen, can we
Do
Can
we
we
have
see
one?
that performance
Well,
bond?
We don't
Can-
have one, because the contract is between the state
Right,
and the general contractor.
right, but I'm asking, can we get a copy of that through your
Yeah,
office?
I can ask for it.
And is there no provision for municipalities who may be affected to be beneficiaries of that bond?
I don't know, I haven't seen the contract.
Well, let's take a look at the bond first,
Right.
because it may provide, we may have a derivative right under that bond. What's the state gonna do with it? It's really the municipality that's gonna be hurt. Or the state is going to have an obligation to the municipality to be indemnified through the performance bond.
Reading between the lines with what the chief is saying from his meetings with DOT, DOT keeps pointing to the contractor and saying, it's your responsibility, Mr. Contractor. I almost smell a performance bond in place between this contractor and the state that indemnifies the state against any claims arising out of accidents related to the construction. Whether or not a condition left that doesn't constitute an accident would come under their performance bond, I'm not really sure. But the concern I have from what I'm hearing is this sign-off by the chief elected official, the chief of the department, and somebody else you mentioned that's on our side.
Company one.
I don't understand why we're signing off on anything. It's their project, they've undertaken to do this. They've got to do it in a good and workmanlike manner. And if there are repercussions to us, I think that performance bond should make us whole, because the state of Connecticut is not going to step up and pay the cost of repairing the engine or redoing the apron to the firehouse to get the engine in and out. So before we sign anything, I really think John's got to be satisfied that A, there's a performance bond, and B, this sign-off is nothing more than an acknowledgement on our part that we're aware that they're lowering the grade of the road, but it's not an exoneration of the contractor from any liability resulting from lowering that grade that damages our equipment or prevents our equipment from coming in and out in a safe manner. And that's got to be done before, not after the fact. I don't care what the engineers are telling anyone. We need to know up front that we've got that assurance that our equipment can ingress and egress that house, and it can do it safely, and it's not going to be damaged or bottoming out or the roof scraping on the ceiling of the firehouse. Those things we've got to be sure of.
I'm sure DOT has done similar projects in many locations in the state, and I'm sure the contractor has worked with DOT. But as you said, Counselor, there's always that possibility. And I brought this to the attention of the chairperson of the Board of Fire Commissioners last week. I was told to handle it, and you're absolutely right. I don't feel, as the chief, that I should be signing off on this. Absolutely, it's the fire department. I don't feel that the captain of Company 1 should be signing off on this. This is something that should be worked out with the town, Career Construction, and the state.
Chief, I can ask one question. Are they asking to sign off on the allowing them to work in front of the property? Because they shouldn't be signing off on accepting any design. I mean,
Or is it just- or is it
there's
just-
no way the chief could say, we're going to accept the design.
Or is it just a notification?
We're signing off on the fact that Guerrero, and I'll provide you with this copy, Guerrero proposed constructing the driveway in 2 stages, allowing vehicle access to the half of the firehouse at a time, the west side, and then the east side. The work would approximately take 3 weeks to complete. It says when the letter was mailed. And as part of the specification of the project, the contractor Guerrero is responsible for notifying and receiving authorization from certain parties to complete this work. Authorization includes having certain parties sign off on the work. Those parties include, as I said before, North Branford first elected official, fire chief, the captain of Company 1, and the district supervising engineer. If you authorize the work to be completed, please sign in the designated areas below, and it has the sign-off spots.
Hold on, I think Kurt makes a good point. I think with that, the way I just heard you read that, is the plan that you talked about earlier about how they're going to do the work in front of your company, not the entire project. That this alternative or mitigation strategy, I think, that's how I interpret that, but maybe I'm wrong. In terms of what you talked about in terms of moving apparatus around, that they're going to move in, not the total project. I think the total project or the pitch and the issue comes at the end or first phase. I'm not sure of the sequencing of the project. But like Kurt says, we're not signing off on the whole project. I think it's just this mitigation plan, or whatever you want to call it.
It's not at all clear what that says that.
Not at all.
It could very easily be interpreted that we're exonerating them from any liability for screwing up whatever they screw up. If they want to sign off from us, as far as I'm concerned, we're signing off to acknowledge the project is ongoing, and in the end, during the course of the project, and when the project is completed, our operations and our safety procedures are not interfered with. That's all we should be signing off on.
I also think it's very critical to closely examine the terms of the performance bond. Performance bonds don't cover everything, and oftentimes require a great deal of interpretation to see if some mishap or some miscue comes under the letter of the bond. And I don't think that I don't know whether this bond anticipates going in front of firehouses. This is a big stretch of property here. They may be talking about vehicles hitting into ruts or whatever, but I don't know that it's specific enough to cover the types of issues that we've been talking about. So that's something, Kurt, that we'll talk about tomorrow and try to examine that as soon as possible. Hopefully the bond will be adequate. I see this letter with regard to the chief signing off as from Guerrera to Chief Seward, notifying him of the schedule of the work. So hopefully what the chief has been initialing is having received that information. And that's it. I mean, they couldn't possibly expect the chief of police to be approving engineering specifications or how the work is going to otherwise be done. I noticed that that our engineer is not on this list, though. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll look at it tomorrow, and we'll get something to the council before the next town council meeting.
Chief, are they giving you some sort of deadline to sign that thing?
As of yesterday in our discussion, no, they just basically said as soon as it's signed off, their intention is to begin construction in front of the firehouse.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Only around the Route 80 and all that, if I can just throw a couple things, because they will impact people. The Route 139, that Valley Road, was the same issue where the state has to close down Valley Road temporarily for construction. It's basically worked out, they have a 3-day window where they have to do a significant filling in Valley Road. So it sort of minimizes the pain of doing that work. And that was sort of worked out between the businesses in the area, the town, the police department looked at that early on. That's tentatively scheduled to occur around July 10th. But there will be a meeting with DOT, police, fire, public works, contractor, the end of this week to start that discussion process to make sure the whole process is discussed, and the chief has to make sure he can provide services, and he has to be able to coordinate his vehicles as well. So we're trying to anticipate that one's going forward. And the other one, again, when the rains and pours on Route 80, they will be repaving Route 80 from the East Haven town line out here in front of Town Hall to Route 22. That's tentatively, it's a milling and paving job. They'll mill part of the pavement for a few days, and they'll pave for 3 or 4 days. Tentatively scheduled to occur beginning July 15th and being complete on July 23rd. DOT did indicate that they would be putting signs out in advance.
Kurt, you need to use the mic.
DOT will be putting signs out in advance along Route 80, try to give people advance notice. But during the milling operation, there should be 2 lanes for the most part, with police officers out there directing traffic. During the paving, sometimes there may be alternating one-way traffic at points. It depends on where they are on the road. But I wanted to just put that on everybody's radar screen so they know this will occur during the middle of the summer. And DOT will be putting public informational notices out and trying to get the word out as best they can. The biggest one's going to be putting signage out there enough in advance to want people.
So it's approximately a 2-week process
Well,
between
yeah,
the milling and the
hopefully,
paving.
From the 15th to the 23rd, yeah, so about 10-day operation.
You also mentioned in there you included a Route 80 bridge replacement.
There's a Route 80 bridge replacement down at the Farm River.
Okay, so that's
tentatively scheduled. They're talking about doing that in the 2015 construction season at this point. That may move a little later. We don't know. They'd like to schedule that a public informational meeting. We discussed last time not to have it in August. I have discussed it with them to try to schedule that sometime in September or October, whenever they're ready, but certainly not in August because we only have the 1 meeting. And then to remind them to look at because they're looking at alternating one-way traffic during the process, or possibly a temporary bridge those are the options I remind them. Make sure you look at don't forget the temporary bridge, because that may be the way. There's impacts to the properties that they have to look at, but there's a lot of traffic that goes through there.
That'll be a wider bridge and...
I don't know, they haven't worked out the details. They sort of come in and discuss the concept with this and timing and, but not all the details. They're not there yet.
Kurt, one quick question. How's Jitsi Drive coming along?
Jitsi Drive is supposed to be paved, first course tomorrow. It's actually supposed to be today because of the rain last week. So tomorrow, and then they got curbing and driveways. They're supposed to be done the day after. This is what Franny got from Tilcon. So we got our fingers crossed because it should be tomorrow. Then once Tilcon does their work, Public Works will get in there and do the loaming and seeding and wrap it up. So
Kurt.
by the end of the week.
Kurt, is Tilcon doing the curb repair that Franny was talking about a month or two ago from the storm damage?
The storm damage, he's trying to line them up, but to be honest with you, they're so
Hasn't happened
busy.
yet?
That's been the issue with them, because we got a lot of cul-de-sacs and other areas that the curbing is knocked out during that storm. Fran told me, that's what he's trying to do, is a scheduling thing at this point.
Okay.
Item B, community center update.
Yeah, I think Rose covered some of it in the on the report from the Permanent Project Building Committee, but the painting is done. They've wrapped that up, and so Olympus is wrapping up their contractual obligations. Michelle's working with them to get all of the necessary paperwork in order to finish that, sign off on that. Floods are an issue. They're going to handle that, as you mentioned. And again, you covered Franny's start next week in terms of the exterior. And the budget I copied for the purpose of what's transmitted to the Permanent Project Building Committee. I thought you'd like to take a look at that. It's ongoing. It's moving along. I did hear from the state, from STEEP in terms of allocation, that request of the letter that we sent for the reallocation, we're going to have to reapply through the state. They want the money back, so we've got to send the money back and make us reapply for that. So we've got to go through that process, unfortunately. But they think it's because several things. It was, as Anthony said, old money, a lot of different revolutions with it, so that I think they just want to clean it up, so to speak. So I'll have to start the process in terms of the application process. That's where we're at.
One other thing, can you make sure that for the next building committee meeting that we have hard numbers on the technology
Right. Yep.
for that meeting?
Yeah.
When's the deadline on that application for the Steve?
Well, they didn't really say. I think it might be, I'm, at this point, giving us consideration in terms of an open, enrollment or open submission, I guess, for that application process. But it's, I have the contact name, I'm talking with her, and I'd like to get it in as soon as we transmit, at the same time we transmit the money.
So you basically could take our other STEEP grant applications that we've used to apply for the community center?
Right.
Is that, I mean, and
Right,
you just update that information?
In
and
building, right, yeah,
Okay.
just cut and paste in terms of, right, doing that, upgrading that, in terms of the form. Same form, but just, right, using the language and updating the language in that, but using that as a template to answer or to submit the application.
Okay.
Item C, Connecticut DOT replacement bridge number 01127 Route 80 Foxton Road update.
Yeah, that was just covered by Kurt. I put that on there just so that the council members wouldn't, confuse with the paving of Route 80 that starts this summer versus this bridge project. That's 2015. So just wanted, it's on there for clarification. Kurt just addressed that.
Item D, road acceptance, Joe Stoneway, to Longo Estates.
Yeah, that I put on, I thought we'd have that ready. There's no action there. It's just more of an FYI. We were hoping to, we were communicating, or Kurt was, with the various parties and trying to get that ready for this meeting. Didn't happen. Hoping optimistically that'll happen for the July meeting, or possibly August meeting, but just as an FYI.
Item E, report on department head training, certification, and continuing education.
Yep, this item came up, I think, at the last meeting request. I put together a sheet that you should have. Didn't come in the pack, came separately tonight, should be in front of you. Labeled item 4E, just goes through this to list every department head, their license, certification, training requirements, and indication in terms of typically what time of year and meetings that they do. So that is there in front of you. That was a question from last.
Is all that travel within the state?
Yeah, predominantly. I think, the response has been that, yeah, we used to go to conferences, we don't anymore, and a lot of free courses or webinars that they're doing online to get some of the credit. Obviously, some of them, as you see, that require state, maybe the chief, I think, had one specific that he has to be with the state attorney every September before the October new laws come into effect. Anthony and Barbara have to go to, GFOA conferences where they're specific. They're in
So it's
state.
all within the state, nobody's traveling out of state, is what you're saying?
No, there are some like, Michelle has to go to out of state, half of it funded by the organization in terms of the certification for the purchasing buyers certification. But by and large, most of it is in the state.
Okay.
Not even, a regional, but mostly state. Oh, I do think, no, I'm sorry, also, Fire Marshal apparently travels to Fire Academy in Maryland. That's on there, that's noted on there as well. So Bert, I think, but most of his 90 hours of certified training in a 3-year period is by attending the state of Connecticut seminars and meetings, but there is that one traveler to Maryland.
Item F, emergency management exercise, Thursday, June 20th.
Yeah, just as an FYI, we'll be putting together the staff, be running an exercise with the state and region. Well, it's actually our region is the events in Torrington, but it's an opportunity for me with the designation of emergency management director to go through a drill and exercise, and that will be happening Thursday morning into early afternoon. So we set up the emergency operations center, go through the, a simulation of support, basically testing communications is what it's.
That's statewide, I believe, right?
It's statewide, yeah. So we will be participating. There will be, opportunities to work on communication, test technology, things like that.
WPCA and Town Council summer meeting schedule.
Yep, just a reminder, that's all. It was good for me to look at it, because I actually thought it would be either the first or the third, but it happens to be the second. So that's highlighted in there as a take-home and a reminder.
Item H, high school security guards update.
Yeah, you have a copy of the bill passed, Senate Bill 1099. But it's sitting on the governor's desk, has not yet been signed. We've been talking to Representative Candelora about that, so we'll hopefully hear through him or from someone when the governor has signed that. And I think it's important that Rose and the other members of council would ask, it should be probably a standing item under unfinished business in terms of looking at the implications there. The bill, if it's got enough flexibility in the language to allow the issue of sidearms or firearms to be issued to employees of boards. So I know Scott is, Scott is working with his attorney. I think it's probably a good idea for John to certainly review as well, but that's.
So this is in regards to the memo of understanding that we received at our May meeting?
Yeah, it's more of a
Okay.
status to say that there is that bill that we had talked about. It did get through. It's sitting on the governor. What the impact is going to be, if it helps or hurts, I don't know. I'm not an attorney, so I think, John's input would be valuable, in addition to, Scott's legal team that's looking at it as well.
Okay, yeah, if you could just move it to unfinished business, and we'll
Yeah.
just keep it there until it gets
Take that
settled.
item 8B then for a future meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Community events and presentations. Citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence. Item A, response from David Steiger, DEP, regarding reimbursement of electrical work on Potato Festival.
Yeah, that's his official response that was copied in there for your packet, that the work is not eligible for reimbursement. That came up at the last meeting, I believe.
Kurt, do you know approximately how much that totals?
That's $19,000 or $20,000.
Mhm.
And basically, we're trying to wrap up, Fran and I, in terms of the project. There's a few loose ends that, we're sort of waiting to get this clarification on. Fran's got to do a few things. He'd like to do something with lights and, but all the money for the grant money will all go towards the Wallfield Budget Park property. There's not much, this sort of helps clear up a few ends that we didn't know we had the money, but there's a few odd things that we have to get done that we were sort of waiting to see where we were. In terms of-
So that money was used at the Potato Festival?
Well, it was. And,
I think you need to stand in front of the microphone again.
Okay. What happened, I think probably on the third go-around to a request for a grant for the Wallfield Spycheck Park, I believe Rich sort of added in, thinking that there's Wallfield, Tutuck Valley Park, and the Auger property is sort of a whole complex. So when he put, I think the last application included all properties to be eligible, because a lot of times there's a correlation between the three properties. That's how he worded it, that's how he submitted it. DEP didn't change the wording of the overall project, so it left it had to be spent strictly on the Spycheck property.
Well, that's what the grant was originally
It
for,
was for.
to build a new wall field and
Right,
take care of
but
all
there's some
that.
access that goes through to Tutuck Valley Park, and there's, some things that were a little close. I think there was some guide rail that was put on the.
So how did it get
property.
switched over to the Potato Festival from Swycheck Park and Wall Field?
It was charged there before I think any of the grants were finally done. That was Rich's thinking behind it.
So that's $20,000
It's
worth
about
of
$20,000
electrical work on an open field.
on the field. So.
So the money's going to have to come out
Money comes
of
out of the Potato
the
Festival.
Potato
Andy and I
Festival
have
capital
talked about it.
account that we just established, and it'll go over.
Right, and then this will go towards completion of the wall field.
We've been talking about this electrical money for a couple of years now, and it still can't get any real answers out of anybody, and it's $20,000 to do an open field. I mean, we still need, I don't know. I mean, I saw a bunch of receipts back from the potato festivals when supposedly they did it, and I'm gonna have to go through everything. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's gotta be better oversight when we spend the taxpayers' money. I mean, the potato festival's a great thing, it gets people together in town, but when you're taking money from a grant for a park and to build a ball field and putting it into a potato festival, that's not right, and it shouldn't be done. It's got nothing to do with you, Kurt, I know that.
So it's then we'll go to capital fund,
Yeah, the money's gotta go back and it's gotta come out of somewhere, right?
and then this will all go towards the wall.
Yeah, and it's gotta be made right.
I don't know, I'm confused though. In this memo, it states that it was billed to the North Branford Board of Education.
And I think that, I talked to Fran, that was some electrical stuff, the Board of Ed had the count, and that, and all it did was listed that, it wasn't billed to them. Somehow,
Because electrical wholesalers, they're not the ones that did the work. That's a supply house.
I can't tell you detail, all I can say, you know, I've seen the receipts, it did say Board of Ed. I think Fran said somehow,
Now, how does the Board of Ed get involved in,
They had the account of electrical wholesaler, that's we bought supplies through, that's where that bill to, just a paperwork thing. Not an issue.
I'm just curious.
There's a couple other vendors that they have accounts to, that we have accounts to, things go back
Gotcha.
and forth, just the name of the bill.
like,
Under community events and presentations, I'd like to welcome the Boy Scouts, or is it Eagle Scouts that are here? Boy Scouts that are here this evening, and recognize them.
You want to stand up so we can say hello to you?
And what badge are you working on? Are you working on a specific badge? Is that why you're here?
We're working on communication merit badge.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
keep up the good work?
Resignations and appointments, none. Item 8, unfinished business, discussion and action. Item A, updates to the defined benefit plan documents, the police union tabled July 9, 2012.
It's only gonna be a year.
Item.
Nothing to report yet. Hope, I mean, we're working on it and getting closer, but maybe the next meeting will resolve that.
Item B, administrator's benefit package update.
Yeah, I think Rose covered that in terms of the subcommittee, finance committee report that they'll meet. I talked with the administrative group, they're aware of it, that July 10th sequence, and then back to the council in August.
Item C, part-time custodial position, recreation department.
Yeah, this was, discussed at the last meeting. You approved one, but not the other. We have a memo in there in terms of Michelle's efforts in terms of the contracting and cleaning, and basically, it basically comes out almost even if you'd hire the part-time person versus the contract, and what the contract would cost us. So, my feeling is, I think, hopefully you'll have, you'd like to reconsider this in terms of going with a part-time person that we'd have more control of, obviously, in terms of where we direct them, and more flexibility to do cleaning or setting up or tables or breakdown and things of that nature. We don't gain anything by not doing it and going to contract, plus it's difficult because there's nothing in the budget for additional cleaning. The way we did it was in the budget through a part-time person. So it's cumbersome to try and handle it that way. So my hope is that you'll reconsider that and approve the second custodial one position.
Question. I thought our goal was to eliminate this vendor not this particular vendor, but an outside vendor completely for cost savings, including this building.
We didn't hire anyone for this building to
Exactly.
clean.
Exactly.
So we'd still need a cleaning contract for this
Right.
building.
When does this contract finish?
June 30th. It runs the fiscal year. And there's the police building that needs to be, that's part of the contract, police
No, I'm
building.
referring
the
to the
to-
town hall.
Right.
Yeah.
They're all on the same cleaning
Okay.
contract.
And the libraries are a separate contract from this?
Well, we authorized at the last town council meeting to hire the person
Oh,
that was in our budget.
I wasn't here.
That would start July 1st, that cleaning person for the library, which is 19 hours a week. And we authorized the maintenance person that was in the budget for Public Works.
Yeah, well, that, I remember that one.
But the issue also that was discussed at the last meeting is that the community center, or the Stanley T. Williams building will be used during the summer for summer camp program. So that building has to be cleaned for the 7 weeks of her program,
Right,
6
it's
weeks
gonna-
of her
It's gonna
program.
cost us the same no matter what to clean that building, whether it's an outside contractor or our own part-timer.
Well, if we hired the part-timer that was in the
Gonna be able
budget,
to set tables up and do all that other
well,
stuff.
there won't be tables for the summer, it's just the summer program. That
Right,
is
for the
once
seniors
the
and
person
all that.
starts there. But then, we still have the existing community center in the senior building, which will be occupied during the summer months with programs. That will have to be cleaned. So we either have to do the contract as stated here, or hire the part-time person.
And he's gonna take care of all those buildings?
Well, we'll bounce the part-timer back and forth, and also, bounce back or split the time.
So he's gonna take care of all those buildings?
No, just the two, from the current rec center building and Stanley T.
What about the old senior center?
Well, that we're gonna combine, shave some time from both that part-timer and the part-timer from the library that's also moving back and forth. Both have, the one part-timer is moving between two libraries. If we can get, an hour and a half each side, 3 hours, not much that's gonna be generated in terms of, for the senior center, but we'll be able to cover it that way using.
So
It's
those
It's not
three.
gonna cost us any more money
Well,
than a cleaning contract.
Right, it comes out just about.
Yes, Michelle?
Hi. Part of the bid when it went out was just the 4 buildings that were to remain in the contract: the Town Hall, Public Works, Seniors, Police Department, and Company 4. Once the Senior Center and Community Center move up to Stanley T, Louisa will still be remaining in the Senior Center, so you're still going to have somebody that needs to clean that building at least a couple of times a week. Chamber of Commerce, I'm assuming when we close down this community center, will move to the senior center, the old one. So that building will still need to be cleaned. And currently in the budget, there is not any funding for a contractor to do those buildings. So when I went through the bid process for the new company, their rates came in well below what we were currently paying. I still have to meet with them to make sure they have a full understanding of all of the requirements of this, because this past cleaning company deteriorated terribly over this last few months, and that's why their contract has been terminated. So to keep in mind that the senior center, current senior center, will still need to be cleaned, and there's no funds in the budget to do that. So that's why we thought the part-time person could handle numerous buildings to do numerous tasks.
I'm clear now.
So this person will float between 4 buildings, basically.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the hiring of a part-time custodial person for the Recreation Department effective July 1st.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Caprio. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Caprio,
Yes?
Counselor Duty,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item D, Field Usage Guidelines, Chapter 88, Park and Recreation Commission.
Yeah, this item came up in the last meeting, and there was a discrepancy or misunderstanding on my part, really, as being a new person in this group, I guess. I didn't quite understand how we had guidelines that 88 there, that the jurisdiction now resides within the rec commission to promulgate those guidelines. And so all you saw was, the town manager's office had stamped in on a certain date in August, but then it never appeared on the council's agenda because it was done. They promulgated guidelines, and as an FYI, or as a courtesy, sent that off to the town manager's office to file. And so that's the process as I understand it now, but I didn't at the last meeting. And that's therefore why we could not find it.
Okay.
The only thing I saw in here, it would be tough to enforce. It would be tough to enforce a lot of these.
I think Pam even, spoke to that in the last meeting as well.
Right.
But I think I talked to Pam about that, and I think their committee would probably still be a good exercise to see whether or not those fees are, consistent with what is within the surrounding area, and see, or to review to see if they're too high, too low, and maybe discuss.
Well, I saw something about using fields with lights at night, $50 they charge for 2 hours. Is that going to cover the electricity for those?
That was the question
Right.
at the last meeting.
Okay, and again, I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, can you check and see last time when Park Rec has met the committee?
Sure.
And maybe
Yeah.
we can look into it. Okay, MBIS project closeout process, item E.
Yeah, the Permanent Project Building Committee accepted NBIS project
At the last meeting, yeah.
The Board of Education has since accepted it, and this kind of closes the loop to have the council accept it. The good news I heard, obviously, if you want to speak to it, Mayor, the capacity issue was
Legislation was passed.
legislation was passed.
Right.
Yeah, so there was a waiver accepted and passed on the space requirements for MBIS. I did convey that to the Board of Ed side. So that's a good thing.
Right.
Something that they've been waiting for to I guess, the last remaining item to look at.
Right. And I know the Board of Ed has accepted it. I
Right.
believe the permanent project, and now, once we accept it,
I'd like to move to approve and accept the school building project 0990049RNVE North Branford Intermediate School as complete.
Second.
moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Sienna?
Yes.
And I just wanted to add, the EDO 49, which is another project for the high school roof, there's been some new movement. I got a few emails today, which I got late in the day. I think I forwarded to you, and I'll forward it to the whole council tomorrow. But there was legislation also passed that we don't need the architect or the architectural drawings, which will help, I think, in that process of getting reimbursement on the roof project at the high school. So that seems to be moving along as well. I think there's a few more items on the punch list that we have to do, but it seems like it's moving along and we're closer to getting reimbursement on that project as well.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it came up at the subcommittee meeting. I talked with the state person involved on the grant process and the grant application and grant funding, and then there's a separate side that has review authority, plan review authority. So made contact, continue, we'll work with the Board of Ed on their side to close the loop and to move this forward, to see if we can do it, as it came up, can we do it after the fact? And that's what we're going to have to do anyway. So finish off those last few items that have not been addressed, and then submit and move that along as well.
Item F, discussion on the Board of Education press box.
invited Scott to come, and so we'll give the floor to the superintendent.
Thank you, Michael.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to pass pictures out. I think that's probably more helpful than me attempting to describe. Joe? I will stand in front of the
You're a quick learner. Good.
For the record, I have no affiliation with the gentleman in the rear of the room. They are here on their own in support of our project. They are contractors, our head football coach, who have donated their time and energy in the next phase of this project. And I will walk you through it, looking at the photos. I have a couple of extras and show if you'd like a copy. Okay, the first photograph is the existing press box, approximately 12 by 7. You can see the condition of it. I do not feel safe at my size going into the press box at this point, nor would I put any of our commentators in that press box. I'll say no more about that just because of the capacity of load there and the condition of the box. You can see in the second photograph, we have gotten our lifespan out of it. The roof of the structure holds the film crew. We have approximately 4 people that stand on that film crew for each team and spotters. We have designed the new press box to accommodate that same amount of personnel up there for. The third picture is the front side of the existing box. You'll see that it is a swinging window frame that opens and closes. The next one is the back side of the press box with the electrical stanchion pole for our lights on the field. The next photograph is where we are looking to pour the base to start the construction. Mr. Chody has dug down and done soil samples. It is pretty much sand and easy to dig in, which will make it much easier for us to pour footings. The next photo is the box itself. You should be on the page where it's just about finished with construction. The doors on the left-hand side. The windows are sliding windows in the front. The students in the advanced construction class have done this entire project, okay, as part of their class. We had to work through the storms in the wintertime, lost time. They were working on this right up until yesterday. Tom came out and did an inspection with the boys working on it, and they were thrilled to have him there, and I appreciate him coming out on short notice. And he went through and looked at everything and the craftsmanship that the boys had done, and girls, and I know he was pleased. If you flip through, you'll notice on the back side we also have windows. We've constructed this press box so that we can call games on the field hockey field and the football field and the lacrosse field and the soccer field. So we have 4 sports on both sides that now we will be able to call from the press box. And I think that's a nice piece to have that present. You'll see that next picture. The rationale on the back side why the windows are so far apart is because of that light pole. So there'll be windows on both sides of the light pole. There's a longer center piece than the front side. Okay, if you're wondering how come we didn't put the same size windows in there. The interior of the box, the construction that the kids did, they framed all the windows out, and we're pretty much wrapping this project up this week. Next photo. I added the ticket house that the kids also built. If you keep flipping, you'll see a finished product with a pitch roof that the kids completed last year. As you enter into any sporting event that there's a cost, you'll see people sitting in the front collecting tickets. And the back side of that is all storage. So we're storing field hockey equipment in there and lacrosse equipment in there. So it's a multi-purpose room. It has electrical run to it. We're able to heat it, and we have lighting on the inside. The kids did the work with the assistance of an electrician. And that is the back side as you look at the other side of the ticket house. And The final picture is the old concession stand. As you're aware, the community fundraised and did the new concession stand. We had that old eyesore sitting out there for years on the side. The kids totally renovated that, and now it is a first aid station. So our trainer has a site so that she's out on the field next to the football field and the field hockey field. So if we do have an injury or we need to take athletes or we have ice, we have everything right there on site, and it certainly looks much better than the old concession stand that was falling apart. So those are the projects that the kids are working on. We're really pleased and proud of the work that they've done. It's been a real community effort. To date, I'm going to pass out a timeline and a spreadsheet of some of the costs and where we're at today. We spent approximately $2,300 on materials to date. The Ed Foundation, under Frank Mentone, the president, donated that money some time ago. That went into a student activity account, and we bought the materials through Beard Lumber through the construction class. The next cost that we have is $1,400 for steel. I learned today that Frank Mentone of the Ed Foundation has donated another $1,500 for the steel, which is more good news. From concession stand sales, we rest at about $3,200 right now in the account that we are also going to earmark for that. So my question to you is, do you want the check coming to the town, or do you want me to keep it in student activities? Do you want me to direct my concession stand monies to you, and then you can rewrite the check coming back? It's time sensitive, the steel. We want to get this thing moving. We're going to be fast approaching the football season. If we don't take advantage of the construction crew that we have here, the licensed carpenters, the licensed electrician, to get this done over the next X amount of days, moving in, we're going to miss a season. I will not put another person in this booth.
Now, on the steel part, do we have time to engineer drawings, right? Like, how do we go about doing the steel?
That's the next phase. The steel is here. We've pulled 2 permits up to this point. The person that does the steel construction, we hire, he takes out the permit. And Tom has walked us through
And he'll
that
do the
next
drawings
process.
and
There is a gentleman that Franny Marola works with the town that can do this piece. We think it's gonna be in the ballpark for the construction and assembling bill, about $3,500? Somewhere in that ballpark. The part of the steel was $1,462.62, which I have here if you'd like to see any of this.
Do we have enough money to complete the project?
Well, to complete the project?
Yes.
We're getting close. We're getting real close. I know that there's some groups that are looking to make a donation. I don't want to ask at this time, but I know there's monies out there that are earmarked for this, and I think we'll be in very good shape. In the budget I put together for you to see, a number of these items will be of no expense. The gentlemen in the back are not going to charge for the demolition or for some of the interior work or for the electrical in breaking down the press box. That is the next piece that we would need to do before we erect the steel. Dave Palumbo has donated all of the concrete and has said that he will assist us in any way possible that we need to get the project done, which I greatly appreciate. As you can see, at the bottom, the cost is about $16,400 minus when you start taking out the $1,500 for steel from the Ed Foundation. You can start breaking this down, back down the $750 out of the cost of the construction for the demolition. The gentleman will not be charging. The footings will be dug by Mr. Chody. I will not be paying him $1,000 to dig the footings. And Mr. Palumbo will be donating the concrete. The fence, we will have to, what we want to do is have the ability to put a gate below there and be able to store things underneath that area. So while we're going to have to cut the fence anyway to do the footing, just put a swinging gate on there, and then we can take advantage of that space underneath the stands. It will be dry under there, and we could potentially leave something underneath there.
Are they going to be able to film on top like they?
Yes.
So
Yes.
something has to be erected on the top?
If you move down, there is the deck and handrails on roof and box for $1,500. The construction class will be doing that. That's not an accurate cost. All of the labor that we've had so far is free. That's the next phase with the roof. They'll go in and put that on. We don't have the final design for the railing right now. We're gonna wait to see what the steel comes in at, what it looks like, and then John Denunzio will put something together for the rooftop. They'll enter the roof from the inside of the box. We're looking at a simple hatchway in the corner that will open up. It will be on the inside of the railing, so as you climb up the ladder, you're stepping inside of the railing onto the roof itself.
Okay.
So obviously for safety.
How come it's not painted purple?
We tried to stay away from the purple.
Okay.
Well, it matches all the other
The decorum
buildings.
is all gray now back there, and we went with the first aid station and the press box, and we wanted to stay with that. That's not to say that some of our sponsors won't have banners hung with purple lettering.
Not traditional.
Off the back of that. Question? I would like your guidance on how you would like to proceed with the fundings that are going, again, if you want a check going to Anthony, who then is gonna cut a check back for the steel, we can do that. If you want me to take my concession money out of my student activity and send it to Anthony, only for him to have to turn and send it back to someone else, we can do that. Or we can finish out this project in timely fashion with doing it the way we have been doing it.
Well, before we go on, I just want to, Scott had alluded to outside groups donating money, and it forgot to get put on our agenda, but on behalf of the Booster Club, as past president, the executive board of the Booster Club met, and I recused myself from this vote on this, but to close out the Booster Club account, we have a donation in the amount of $2,138.69, which will close out the Booster Club account. And the executive board had voted to make this payable to the town of North Branford. So at this time, I would like to present the mayor with a check from the Booster Club for, and the purposes is for the press box.
Now, is the Booster Club still around?
Pardon me?
Booster Club still around?
No, Booster Club.
It's all over?
Booster Club is over. It was a matter of, a lot of the sports groups have their own parent groups, which parents were very involved in either, football, basketball,
Right.
whatever. And so
That was inclusive.
there were less volunteers for Booster Club. And when the Board of Ed hired their new food service director, they had decided that they wanted to take over the outside concession stand. So it was a good time. The Booster Club didn't have enough volunteers in the Board of Ed when they hired the new food service manager. So as of, this past September, they took over running the concession stand. So the $3,200, I'm assuming, is from this year's
Correct.
concession stand that they're putting into. And Booster Club raised most of their money through the concession stand, was through the indoor and the outdoor concession stand. And all of that money always went back to the school. So the money that was left in Booster Club account, this is the final amount, but we also donated $2,500 to the Scholarship Association, so that will be able to give scholarships for at least 5 years. And then there were player benches for the field hockey team. They're portable player benches with backs on them.
We
That
still
was
don't have a real field for field hockey.
about
We
$1,400.
consecutively every year in field hockey. Praise to our band.
Well, my two daughters played, I know the whole deal with field hockey.
And then there was a donation to Project Graduation. The final donation to Project Graduation was $500. So that closed out Booster Club account on there.
Would this be a good time to introduce the turf
Sure.
for the field hockey?
I'm all for turf.
Gentlemen, would this be?
I'm all for turf.
Well,
That's a whole other conversation.
No
for
kidding.
for anyone watching and wants to donate, either, I guess, contact, central office or,
They can
and-
make it out to North Branford Student Activities plus press box.
that way at least you get on TV, that anybody watching, that wants to get involved or donate, they can contact central office.
Any other questions where we're at with this
No.
press box? I think you'll be proud of it when you see it. It really, it's student-driven.
Just be careful digging. I know that when they ran all the wires for the lights over there, there's a lot of wires.
Hopefully you did, Bill's already through.
Yeah.
It's already marked, ready to go. Tom's been out there, he's given us our blessing, he's volunteered to help dig, so.
Purple and white.
Well, I know one of the other concerns that we had discussed also was on, I know a lot of people are volunteering their time, and I think that is absolutely wonderful. Contractors just want to make sure the building and official in town make sure that all the licenses, everything is up to date, because it will be a public place, and we're just concerned about the liability issue, so we want to make sure that that's all done correctly.
If you have any structural questions, Bill Chody is here. This thing will be reinforced beyond. I mean, it's quite a design. The gentleman that did our Doug Fisher, who many of you know, did the stamp design, and is going to go through the infrastructure of the steel too as well before we construct. So we're very confident with his work.
And once you get all the steel up, you have the crane and lift this right into
We're
place.
going to
and-
crane. We have a connection there. We're hoping for either a donation or a significant reduction in price.
Fine with me.
Looks good.
We didn't answer Scott's
Yeah, I'm
question.
waiting for,
We got
Oh.
diverted with Rose's good news. Where should the money go, to Anthony or to his school fund?
if it's made out to Anthony, this check, we can just, you and Don can make that connection. My student activity account for concession stands, it doesn't really make sense for me to send a check to Anthony, only for him to send a check back for
Yeah.
the steel or,
Well, you already
Well, he
have the
could just pay
money
the vendors directly.
basically in your accounts, right?
I have a check coming from Franklin Tone. Yes, the $3,200 is in my student activity.
Right, so, I mean, how much money is there altogether right now?
7,000.
Okay, and you have it all?
I have 47 minus the,
Right, I mean, why are we gonna switch everything around? You have the 47, you got the check made out to the town, so you can transfer it over or whatever you have to do, and you're gonna spend $16,000 on this basically, right?
no, we spend much less than that.
Okay, so,
We're now, we're going to be very close, because of the volunteers,
that's why we have a great town.
right?
I
I'll
think
put purple on.
leave it the
So you
same.
make-
Let people.
Yeah, well, I'll buy the purple paint if you paint the things purple, you know.
So Vinnie, you make a motion that he could keep it in his student activity fund?
Sure, I'll make a motion that you can keep it in the student activity fund.
Moved by Counselor Caprio, seconded by Counselor Duty, to have the funds go to student activity. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Duty?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Sienna?
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect, nice
Eric.
job, thank you. Okay, item G, discussion on marshals.
Mr. Mayor, I asked that this matter be put on the agenda for many years. The ultimate say in who the marshal is going to be for the town has rested with the legal advisor of the town through the tolerance of the town council. And for more years than I'd like to recall, both being a town attorney and being on the town council, that has been the practice. And for one reason or another, over the past couple of months, there's been discussion, and there has been discussion not only as to who the marshal might be, but also whether we should have more than one marshal. And in fact, I think as the situation stands now, there may be 2 or 3 marshals. And I just, at one of the last council meetings, I think that practice was recognized by the town council, but I had not officially or formally stepped out of the darkness and just simply said, as town attorney, as the legal advisor of the town, I'd like to continue working with Neil Longobardi, with whom I've worked for probably close to 30 years in my capacity as a town attorney. So I'm putting that out there with the, expectation that the council would like to continue that practice. Obviously, if that's not the case, if the council wants to rescind that, and obviously they do that, I serve the town council as everybody else does. But as it appears right now, there seem to be other departments or employees who may advertently or inadvertently create a situation where it's not something that I would endorse. I'm comfortable with the marshal that we've used. I rely upon him, and so at this point, it's my recommendation that we continue with the marshal that I've used in the past, which would be Neil Longbard. If that's the intent of the council to continue that practice, I would suppose ask the council through the mayor to simply advise the town manager to implement that.
John, what we, I think, are reacting to, and I don't really have a dog in this fight. At the end of the day, I just want taxes collected. But I'm hearing second and third hand, and I'll concede that it's hearsay. I'm not getting any direct complaints from any citizens. But I'm hearing that there is a delay in sometimes turning over funds that have been collected from delinquent taxpayers, with the result that they have trouble registering their car, that there is difficulty in reaching him by phone when somebody does make an inquiry at the tax collection office and they try to confirm with the marshal that the funds have been collected and they'll be remitted at some future point. Those are, I use the term guardedly, those are disturbing accusations. And I'll concede I don't know firsthand that they're accurate or not. But you seem to have a great deal of confidence in his work. And I give a tremendous amount of deference to your opinion. So I guess my question to you is, are you satisfied that those complaints we're getting indirectly from citizens are unfounded?
Well, I think, first of all, I would not be satisfied if that state of affairs were, as you say, validated. I think there was a question of one check. This boiled down to one check for maybe $300, and it turned out that the marshal did not have the check, that it was in the tax department's domain. I have no problem. I've discussed, this is not the first time that this has come up, and the last time, or a couple of council meetings before, apparently in anticipation of the discussion, there was some paperwork showing how everyone had signed an affidavit or something, and how, I don't know, there was, I discussed that with Mr. Longobardi. He does not have any problem with any of the people in the town hall, to his knowledge. That is the tax collector per se. He's fine with that. If there are problems with the marshal, and you have to keep in mind that for the past almost probably 28 years, we've used Mr. Longobardi, and only as a result of the opinion of the prior town manager have these problems become apparent. You know, my view is that I do trust in him. He does all of my office's work, and of course, obviously others. He is the town marshal for a number of other towns and cities, and I find him to be very honorable and effective. So that's where I'm at. No one is, anyone who has a complaint directly about him it should be validated, and if it is, then that's a game changer. I'm not going to put the town council, you know, in any situation in the town where you're not getting the services you expect to get, whether it's the town marshal, the town attorney, or anybody else. But that's how I feel about it. And I think, Joe, actually, you were the one who asked me a couple of council meetings ago to just, you know, historically, that's been the practice. Who do you recommend?
Who's getting better results?
we got very good results during the time that he was the single town.
We have other couple marshals that have been working on this now, and I guess, I just want these taxes collected, and I have had a few constituents who've contacted me, actually, and I actually put a letter into the record from a woman on Notch Hill Road, and there was another woman on Harrison Road who had difficulties, and I don't think the woman on Harrison Road is still resolved, to be honest with you. And I don't think this man is as easy to contact as he should be, okay? I'm sure he's a very busy man, but we have needs for the town, and we have things that have to get done. And I would like to know what the results are from all these new marshals that have been working for a couple months, and what the older marshal has been doing for a couple months, so we can see what's going on actually, and who's getting the job done.
Well, and I think, with all due respect, I think the town council will make a call. I mean, that's what you're really saying.
Right, the
And I
town
think-
council should make the call, since we're responsible for the money of this town.
Then that's, that's fine with me. I'm not gonna.
Well, that's fine and dandy, John, but I want to know who's getting the results. We need the job done, okay? That's what we need.
Vinny, this is,
I could care less if Santa Claus is collecting our taxes, okay? You know that. I don't care if it's Neil or whoever else that the other town manager put on it. We need the job done.
well, the premise that you're operating under is that the job is not being done, and I don't happen to know that.
Well,
think
I have a
that-
couple of constituents that have contacted me, and I brought it to the town tax collector, and I've also brought it to Neil. And I had a big argument with the last town manager because I tried to help this poor woman get her money back because she double paid.
As far as I know,
Yeah, let the mayor talk, he's got something to say.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I was here for a couple of hours in a meeting, and Anthony, you were there too, when we had that 14,000 discrepancy. And Neil did have all the paperwork. And it did end up being filed or put into the computer. I think this is more of a personality thing than it is anything else.
When you say misput in the computer, do you mean the town made an error in?
Correct.
Okay.
And so I don't know. I mean, I was always told historically that the town attorney picked the marshal.
Doesn't bother me who
However-
picks it, just get the job done.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know what the evidence is as far as who's, doing better or not.
Right. We know we have a,
My opinion is the town manager makes a recommendation to the council, and if the council feels that it's worthy, then the council appoints the marshal. But I think the council is ultimately responsible for who's working for the town, not through the town attorney's office.
It's always been through the town attorney's office for,
Yeah.
35, 40 years.
yeah, well,
There's
sometimes
been a lot of
things
changes
change.
in 35.
There's a lot of changes on the council, too. That doesn't make it right.
I guess what, at the end of the day, troubles me is we're making a decision based on innuendo.
Right.
And suspicion. And I personally have not heard any hard objective facts that would compel me to override the town attorney's judgment and opinion. This is what he's done historically. We certainly wouldn't have him as our town attorney if we didn't have trust in him. I'm perfectly prepared to say we've got to make a change if there's justification for the change. I'm hearing that there is concern, but I'm not hearing the basis for that concern. And I guess that kind of bothers me that just on the basis of suspicion alone, we're prepared to say, we're going to do something entirely different. That's my opinion.
I think the mayor hit the nail on the head, to be honest with you, with conflicting personalities between our tax department and the marshal.
And that's what I saw.
Right.
But I don't know. I think from what I saw, there may be two different styles. I mean, I don't know, but, you know,
Something's gotta happen.
I don't want to like throw anyone under the bus, but I know about your check, and.
You know about the girl on Notch Hill Road?
Yes,
She wrote you too?
yep.
Okay.
And I don't know that that is resolved yet or not, I don't know. And I don't know if it's the marshal or not, I can't.
Right. We
I
can't nail
say
anything
that
down
it's the
because
marshal.
we just can't get any answers.
So I don't know.
Well, I think we should continue the way we're going and maybe get monthly reports and see who's collecting what and how it's
Well,
going.
actually, I had asked for a report on back taxes, month
Did
by
you get
month,
it?
actually,
Did
and
you get
last 2 meetings ago, no.
The last meeting, there was a status to date of what the collections were for the marshals.
I thought you,
Yeah.
Right, but I mean,
I thought you had
for
said that-
marshals, for the whole deal, month by month, what was collected, that's what I wanted. This way I can see what comes in month by month from where. Since we're responsible for the people's money, I want to see what's coming in month by month. I just don't want one line item that says, we collected so much and our budget is so much to collect for this year. That doesn't do anything for me. I need to see what's coming in month by month.
Right now, we've hurt or hamstring ourselves, because by dividing up the tax warrants, it's almost not worth it for a marshal.
That's fine, give it to,
So
give it to Neil, I could
It's
care
either
less.
all or nothing.
I just want it done.
Right, but I'm saying it's either all or nothing.
Right,
and-
so give it all to Neil, and we'll put him on a trial basis, we'll see what he does for the next 3 or 4 months, when we get the monthly reports.
Well, I think that's fair. I mean.
Right, is that fair, John?
It's fair to me. I mean, I don't know that he needs to audition after 28 years, but there have been some rumors or some innuendos.
Well, obviously, we had a person who couldn't register her car, we all know that, it came before the council.
As far as I know, there was only one check that was in question that was found, and it wasn't in his custody. That's neither here nor there. We're talking about
Right.
thousands of bills here.
Right.
And I think that you want one person to be responsible for it, and that's fine. If for any reason, this man has, whoever's doing it has no contract whatsoever, not an employee of the town, and if for any reason that person is not performing,
Well, that's how we can-
it's absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, the council's prerogative to say.
Right, that's how we can gauge performance,
That's
obviously.
right, but we're talking about having one man do it now.
Have one guy do it,
That's
just
fine.
get it done.
That's fine.
Patience is at an end,
That's fine.
okay?
Okay, currently the marshals, the warrants are out, they expire June 30th. Is this a prospective
Yes.
decision? Okay.
Yeah, we're not
This
going to
period,
be, we're not
June
going to be
30th.
taking away the warrants
It's
from
the next round of
two other
warrants
people.
that go out,
Yeah.
is my
We
understanding,
wanna-
right?
Yeah,
I,
you do.
I,
Yeah, June
Yeah.
30th.
it's easier and more complicated, because someone's gonna say, well, yeah, this one got all the juicy warrants, this one got the hard warrants, that's why it's disparate.
Yeah.
That's
Leave it-
ridiculous.
Well, look,
Whatever,
That could
no,
happen.
I understand, but just get it done.
I don't have a problem with that plan.
And, I mean, I believe there is kind of a new system. I mean, from what I was told, the marshal will come into town hall once a week for 2 hours, making himself available for the staff, taxpayers. So I do think, you know,
As far as I know, he does have a dedicated line for the purposes of the town and for the taxpayers. Maybe I'm
You said
dreaming, but I'm
mailbox
pretty
was
sure
full.
that's exactly what has happened.
Well, when I called, he answered, put it that way. But when other people called, they said he didn't answer. So that's all I can tell you. When I called him, he answered. But when other people had called him that have come to talk to me, he didn't answer.
So the evidence is that he answers, because you
To
personally.
me, right, he answered to me. Obviously, he's gonna answer for me, John.
I would answer to you also.
Thank you.
all right, let's move on.
Yes.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, you, I have nothing to
Okay.
say. You're a
Let
lawyer.
me just raise maybe the other side of the spectrum. If there are complaints within the town tax collector's office, should they not be going to Mike?
Yeah, they shouldn't be
Mike not be
calling,
making us aware that there's a complaint coming from the
Yes,
tax collector?
absolutely.
I don't think a counselor should be calling the
Right. So
marshal
let
and
me
saying
just
things.
suggest that, one, John continues the relationship that he is comfortable works. that we get whatever reports it is that any member of the town council feels are appropriate to monitor the progress that that person is making, and that, Mike, you talk to the people in the tax office who seem to be having a problem, and tell them, to the extent there is a problem, it should come to you. You should be made aware of it, you should be given all the background information, so you can come back to us, and if there is a change needed, then we have the facts that we can use as a basis for making that change.
Perfect.
Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
And the policy is in place.
Yeah,
Okay.
The
Yeah,
policy is in
I know.
place.
And so just for clarification purposes, as Anthony alluded to, pointed out, we're not going to do anything at this point, in this season, so to speak, that it would come into play.
The next time warrants,
Of April of next year, 2014.
well, whenever you,
June 30th, he said.
Yeah, what happened on June 30th?
They expire, the current warrants are 60-day warrants. They
Right.
go up in April, they expire June 30. The next step, we're going to come back to the finance committee is a collection agency. You don't do this again until next April, after your second cycle of tax collections. As of those fall off the table, then they go into the marshal and then collection agency and so on.
Yeah, so, I mean.
So it goes to a collection agency after?
Well, that's what we're going to propose to the finance committee. We haven't done that previously. And
Okay, otherwise it would go back
it
to
just
the marshal.
lapses on, yeah. Well, after the marshal has it for 60 days and does nothing, it just comes back to the town and sits on a roll.
For like 14 years.
Exactly, 15.
Yeah, I know, and then after 15 years, it goes away, and they walk away scot-free. I found that out.
So for future.
This is gonna change.
Future consideration would be the added step.
Which on the payroll.
After
Good.
expiration of June 30th, does this council want to make a policy decision to go to a collection agency that you have not done in the past?
All right, that's something that should be discussed at finance first and then brought back to the town
Right.
council.
Absolutely.
because we're also implementing now too the credit card system
Yes.
and so on, so that may change some things as well. All right, so we're clear on that. Okay, now we're going to go on to fire department equipment purchase. I think that's just an update.
Yeah, this, item H, I think we supplied, well, actually, the chief is here as well, obviously you can
Oh,
speak to
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I thought we had, shared my, donation item
Yeah,
here.
this is the difference.
Yeah, the memo, right, on the lease, yeah. Item 8H kind of explains that, and certainly the chief is here to answer any questions you may have. But it's an opportunity, obviously, to get equipment, and I think it's best if you speak rather than.
I know we discussed this at a March
Right.
meeting, because we discussed it at finance. Do you have a list of the equipment? Because there was nothing attached here.
I
mean,
do.
Okay.
I'll just kind of go back here a little bit and remind the councilors that $400,000 was appropriated under bonding for the acquisition of the new rescue truck at Station 1. The bid was awarded to PL Custom of Manasquan, New Jersey for a price of $370,559, with left us with $29,441. I explained a couple months ago to the Finance Subcommittee that one of the reasons why equipment wasn't added to the initial specification is that we were really borderline on whether or not we had enough money to buy the truck as is. Because of economic times, and it's all dependent upon how much money basically the vendor wants to make off you, we had a good deal. So we have this reserve that's left over. I explained to the Finance Subcommittee our intention to be able to provide top-of-the-line equipment along with this rescue truck. So again, with $29,441 left over, we have gone out and obtained price quotes for equipment that would be bought under state grants, state contracts for $29,181. I can tell you this, based upon working with the vendor at the present time, taking the day to go down to the factory to look at the pre-construction of the apparatus, and working by way of email from that time to present, with this added equipment, we'll have a state-of-the-art piece of apparatus that you, as the body authorizing this money, will be very proud of and make communities that surround us envious of us. So my recommendation is to go along with what the Board of Fire Commissioners approved on 6th of this month, is to spend the remaining money, as I stated, on rescue equipment to be supplied on the vehicle. And as I stated to the Finance Subcommittee, is that it takes a year for construction, but based upon the pre-construction meeting, they need to know now where equipment is going to be placed so that appropriate areas, shelves, et cetera, can be properly designed. So that's why we look at this time to get the money spent.
Is part of this money, does it include a thermal imaging camera? Because I know,
That was part of the original purchase. That's included in the 370,559.
one?
Yes,
Okay, and then I know we approved during the budget process.
correct.
Money.
$2,000 for others.
Right, so that will give you enough thermal imaging cameras?
We have a sufficient complement of thermal
Okay.
imaging cameras, correct.
All right. Because I know that was discussed at Finance
Prior,
Committee.
correct.
At the Finance Committee,
Yes.
was thermal imaging cameras.
Correct.
I'd like to move the motion be hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council authorizes the Treasurer and Finance Director to utilize the remaining $29,441 from the 2012-13 lease purchase for a new rescue truck for the purpose of purchasing equipment pursuant to a list provided by Fire Chief William Seward.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Whitworth?
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni?
Yes.
Councilor Caprio?
Yes.
Councilor Duty?
Yes.
Councilor Fawnin?
Yes.
Councilor Seanen?
Yes.
New business, discussion and action, tax abatement, engineering specialties.
Yes, this is, I put this on the agenda for a request that came from a local company, ESI, and the owner, Ron Delfini, is here to answer any questions. But his company came up in the course of conversation that had to do with the CPACE program that we wanted to do to allow companies this financing opportunity to go after clean energy or renewable energy. As it turns out, their company is ready to do this project, a solar project, on their building, and they're ready to go right now. The state of Connecticut passed the act concerning exemption for renewable energy sources, and you have a copy of that legislation in there. That's going to exempt from property tax all renewable energy sources that are installed on or after January 1, 2014. So the reason this is on the agenda is a request from the company would like to get started now because the language in the bill, or the language in the statute, allows
have to
a
approve
local option to grant the abatement. And so what this is basically is an effort to accelerate the project for ESI, which if we don't give them the abatement, they'll just wait to January 2014 to do their project. So in terms of a good business move or a show of good faith to help local businesses to get this started now. And under the bill, this does not do anything currently to their current assessment.
Right.
It doesn't do
It's
anything
only
to
the equipment they're putting on now.
for the
Right,
solar. So
right.
it's essentially, we just don't see it.
Right.
And we don't derive any
Right.
taxes from it. And we wouldn't anyway, because the state's exempting it come January 1st. So this is a local option that allows Ron and his company to jumpstart the project and start it now if we give them the local abatement.
I'd like to move the motion be it hereby resolved that the Town Council approves an abatement of 100% to Environmental Specialties Incorporated on 452 Twin Lakes Road, North Branford, Connecticut, for the installation of a renewable energy source solar project to be applied by the town assessor for exemption from taxation from the grand list of 2013 for Connecticut PA 1361.
Second.
They should be engineering specialty.
What?
I think the motion's incorrect. Should be engineering specialty.
What?
Oh,
Yes,
that's
I'm
right,
sorry.
engineering specialties.
Good catch, thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
I thought there was-
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Angeloni.
I would just like to say that this is actually a very good business move, and I think it's very appropriate for the town council to do this. It's a local business who is trying to save energy with the hopes of adding on to his business or increasing business, and which would therefore increase the tax base. And I think anything we can do to promote business in town and to keep business in town is a good thing. So I am definitely very much in favor of this.
Yeah, myself too. Michael and I were fortunate enough to take a tour of the facility, and they're doing some wonderful things over there. I don't know if you want to step up for a second and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Ron Delfini. And yeah, the solar project's quite large. It'd probably be the biggest one in town, I assume. About 500 panels on our entire roof, and it's enough to power about 17 homes. So it's probably cover about 70% of our needs. So it's pretty exciting, and we do want to get moving as quickly as we can. So I appreciate the consideration.
Good luck with it. Tell your partners thank you too. Good luck.
I'd like to add that Ron was one of the first businesses in town to take on the step-up program from Workforce Alliance. You want to explain that you had the employee,
Yeah.
because we're going to have another meeting with them.
I won't profess to be an expert on that, but I believe the program allowed us to receive state funds for training for new hires, specifically people that were on unemployment or military veterans. So if you hired somebody, you would get part of their salary rebated by the state.
Was it 6 months or something?
6 months, yeah, in order to train them for the job. So yeah, we were, I believe, the first company in the state.
Really?
To take advantage of that, so, yeah.
You know you can apply for that again?
I do know that, I think,
Okay.
and we'll look to do that. We actually may be hiring soon, so.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have the motion, Mayor? Deputy Mayor Wentworth and Councilor Angeloni. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni?
Yes.
Councilor Caprio?
Yes.
Councilor Duty?
Yes.
Councilor Fawnin?
Yes.
Councilor Sienna?
Yes.
Item B, State of Connecticut DOT Master Contract Agreement.
Yeah, this is the new facet of DOT. I don't know if it's part of the Paperwork Reduction Act or just a streamlining effort on their construction projects, but they issued a letter to ask the town to sign off on this master contract agreement for all future type of projects that affect the town. So I had sent it over to John to take a look at and review, just to get his opinion before we go forward. But I think it's the sort of the future way they'd like to do business in having this master contract.
So we call it a law an adhesion contract. There's nothing you can do with it, other than to be very careful.
And reading it, doesn't seem like we have much choice.
No.
There's no choice.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion, be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council hereby authorizes Michael T. Paulus, Town Manager, to sign the agreement entitled Master Municipal Agreement for Construction Projects.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Fawnin. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni?
Yes.
Councilor Caprio?
Yes.
Councilor Fawnin?
Yes.
Councilor Sienna?
Yes.
Item C, open space item review of 25-acre parcel off Forest Road
Yeah, I think this
from our last meeting.
was from the last meeting that you mentioned and asked, so Kurt was gracious enough to sort of plot this for us on a map as a potential future acquisition if the the council is so inclined to take a look at, review what, just to give you an idea and plot it out and where it is in reference to other town properties. So I think, Mayor, I think you've got more information with respect to what I think they're looking at on a per acre purchase that may or may not fit with the going market or not, and or our open space what we
Yeah.
have there. So I don't know if this is, right at this time to consider, but it's there for your file.
Yeah, this is 25.7 acres, right next to, adjoining like the Swycheck parcel. I did take the opportunity to drive in there. It was a little muddy, but it's not bad land at all. I'm not 100% sure on the asking price, but he had said like 1.5. And looking at 25.7 acres, that seems to me a lot of money.
Well, it's kind of far from Swycheck, though, because you got two streets in there, too.
Now, what's,
I think you could have this in executive session.
Okay.
good idea,
Serious about discussing it.
very good idea.
So if you want, we could have that tonight or some other night, but I
All right.
Okay.
probably should go.
Very good idea.
But yeah, the lot is next door, and it's, we'll go on an executive session with it.
Would you like this for, for July or August, in executive session?
Yeah.
Yeah, next meeting.
Appropriation transfers.
Very few appropriation transfers for the current fiscal year. The top two are traditional transfers. The bottom three are basically transfers to satisfy the budget. Items like where you subsidize other outside funds, like the ambulance is budgeted in general fund, but it goes to the ambulance fund. Recreation goes to that fund. And the self-insurance deductible goes out to a special revenue fund as well.
Well, the Park and Rec, the 26,000, was
Yes.
that the fund that had a negative balance?
That's correct. It'll still probably be negative. When we merge, we're going to merge a couple of funds together and redesign them going forward for a new general fund location.
So Park and Rec,
The community center fund, which is what this is going towards, is one that has the negative balance.
and okay, and this is the one during budget season where I asked to get a breakdown of like what she gets from her summer program and
No.
trips and,
That's the recreation program fund.
okay, so then I'm
This
confused.
is community center fund.
So that's where the gym money is and all that
Right.
stuff?
Right. Previously it was self-standing, separate fund by itself, and the general fund always gave money to the community center fund. You funded it through recreation budget. There was like this $26,000 item was in the general fund budget to go to the community center fund. So this is just for this year's allocation going to that community center fund.
So that they're not in the red.
They probably will still be in the red a little bit on end of the fiscal year, yeah. I don't know the exact numbers offhand. I could get the exact numbers for you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to approve the appropriation transfers as submitted.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Fawnin. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth,
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni,
Yes.
Councilor Caprio,
Yes.
Councilor Dewar, Councilor Fawnin,
Yes.
Councilor Sienna.
Yes.
Item E, suspense list. Any questions on the suspense list?
A lot smaller than the last one.
So I just have a question. If there's people on the list that say out of business, So there's, if they're out of business, there's no chance of collecting from them, even if they're still in town and,
Could you give these to collection agencies?
Sure. It's not written off, just goes,
I know that, but it comes off the books, and that's how the 98% collection rate is always so great.
you can certainly go to the
Yeah, I would think that would be the way to do it, instead of just writing them off and say, let's forget about them for now. I mean, let's try and get it. That's what I would suggest. Right? I mean, if there's a chance of getting something, we might as well go for it.
Well, most collection agencies, you don't pay unless they get
I
money.
mean, obviously, God rest their souls, the ones that are deceased, you're not gonna collect from them, but people who moved and they can't find and stuff, obviously, a collection agency can look for them.
well, I mean, there's at least one that has several bills on the out of business that I know still lives in town
Sure. And a collection agency will do their job.
and works in town,
Sure.
so, okay.
I have a question about motor vehicles, because I have a relative who moved and, you know, the car tax bill didn't catch up with him. When he went to renew his car in a different town, you know, stopped him cold. He had to find the South Fire District in Middletown to register his car. I mean, here we got motor vehicle taxes, and how could they renew their license or?
Out of state.
Out of state? Ah,
Take the middle initial out of their name.
change the name.
It's the oldest game in the book.
Go to Ronald.
All right, it's the oldest game in the book.
Right.
gotta remember that.
Should be an executive session.
All right, let's move on from this.
Do we have to accept anything, or did, because there was no motion
Yeah.
presented to, so what should it, just that we accept? I make a motion to approve the suspense list as presented.
Second.
Approved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Fornin. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Shannon.
Yes. One quick question. Anthony, is this the entire suspense list now?
Negative.
No.
Oh, okay. I recall it being, yeah, about that thick.
Yes.
Item F, financial reports.
Financial report for the month of May, you see the various lines that I identify monthly. The tax collections remain strong, a little bit ahead of last year. Overall revenue appears to be down, but again, last year there was a huge surge of miscellaneous revenue as we refinanced bonds, and that's where the proceeds go in. Bottom line expenditures, roughly the same as last year, maybe 1% higher. Again, same departments that have been overexpent all along remain overexpent. As I mentioned at finance, there are some significant holes that we're going to have to scrape every dollar from the various departments to ensure that we have a positive result on the expenditure side. We have some employee leave liability, we have some legal bills, and we'll be looking for every dollar we can to balance that bottom line expenditure side of the house.
Now, Ann, did we finalize, like, the budget yet from last year? Is it finalized?
Yes, you should have gotten the books. Did you get books with this?
Yeah, we did, we voted on it.
No, I know, but the actual final.
We got the new book, or whatever, the approved budget, or whatever
Right.
they called it.
The adopted budget book?
Yeah.
But I thought there was still.
Well, the only thing we have to do is the CI, the capital improvement.
Right, that'll
plan.
happen subsequently, and we're still, as Mike and I were talking today,
That part of it, the
Right.
capital improvement.
this whole new municipal revenue sharing account, how we're gonna handle that is another moving target. Is gonna be low SIP, now they're talking maybe town aid road, which may impact our ability to spend it where we wanna spend it, that may affect the things that you put in the budget already. So we're still trying to iron that out. That'll be probably August, September timeframe.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of when we were doing. Okay. Item G, tax refunds.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Fawnin, seconded by Counselor Angeloni. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Shannon.
Yes.
Item G2, TD Equipment Finance Corp. Brook and Whittle declarations.
You have a memo there for item 9G2, which was a duplication. So funds have to go back based on what the leasing company did and the company itself.
So they basically duplicated their company.
Over 2 years, yeah. I mean, I guess they caught it this time around, but for the 2011, 2012, 10 and 11, it's split over two periods. But they found it anywhere in the document that they had paid for us. Or the leasing company had and the actual company, business.
So do you need a motion on this one
Yeah,
also?
please.
I just have, Christine, you were able to verify this? Yeah, okay.
I'd like to approve the tax refund for TD Equipment Finance, Brook and Whittle declarations as presented.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wentworth. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Sienna?
Yes.
Item H, Fire Department ambulance contract / labor discussion.
Yeah, the chief is here for this one as well, but, yeah, I just kind of put together some language. It's about the contract with FinTech Management Services, and that it's coming up in terms of expiration. You know, it may need direction in terms of how to proceed, and I think the best thing to do is just, I think the contract language, I think, allows to go month to month and extend this while we go through a process, but certainly we can give you more background information on the history and
Well, it's
what
up
they-
June 30th,
what they do, yeah.
so we're gonna have to extend it no matter what. We can't put
I-
anything new in
I
2
think-
weeks.
I think we should, yeah.
You know, I mean, that's obvious. Now, what's gonna happen? It's gonna go out to bid to other companies, or what are we gonna
And
do?
that's what I would like to talk to the town council about tonight. And I have to thank Mike for making sure this gets on tonight's agenda. In fiscal year 2009, 2010, we did an RFP. And again, this dates back to using an outside provider for EMS personnel to 2004. The last RFP was put out in fiscal year 2009 to 2010. It was awarded for Vintech. And yes, Counselor, it expires June 30th, and we're at our max of contract extension. Just as an FYI, the value this fiscal year is $430,069. Now, the interesting thing about this is, as we go out for the RFP, we're not going out for a commodity. We're not going out for an electrician. We're going out for very specific needs of this community. There's only 2 licensed by the State Connecticut Department of Public Health, Office of Emergency Medical Services, vendors in Connecticut that can provide the service. Vintech Management Services out of Torrington, and the other vendors out of the Cromwell area. We have used Vintech, as I said, since 2005. When we instituted our paramedic service, they bought into it. It's a great public-private entrepreneurship. They have, through the RFP process, the ability to hire our personnel first. But the most important point you need to understand is that not only does the person that we seek our contract from need to be licensed by the State Department of Health, and there's only 2 available in the state, but more important to that they have to hire individuals, paramedics and EMTs, that have medical control only through the New Haven Sponsored Hospital Program. That's where we get our medical direction. So, hypothetically speaking, if we were to award an RFP to vendor XYZ, they would have to hire all new employees. But more important to that, they would have to make sure that the employees that they hired were the ones that had medical control through New Haven Sponsored Hospital Program. And it would It would actually provide us with a break in service. We would have to stop providing ambulance service until such time that the provider came on board and got medical control through New Haven Sponsor Hospital. So, as I said, we're not buying an electrician's services. We're buying a very specific need to operate an ambulance or an EMS service for the town that's unlike any other service. And I know we have regulations for purchasing, and we all recognize that fact. But we really need to consider how we provide this level of service to the community and not have a break in continuity of operations. It's so important that only the employees that we have working for us have medical control through the one agency. That's by state statute. We have absolutely no say in that. So I believe you have a motion in front of you that allows the extension on a monthly basis for us to work with Vintech. However, the fact still remains, because of purchasing regulations, we still have to go out for an RFP. There could be the chance, there could be that slim chance that another vendor comes in and says they can do it for a lesser amount. And as I said, there's only 2 vendors licensed in Connecticut to provide that service. So is one more responsive to other if you use that language? Right, I can't tell you that because both provide personnel to agencies throughout Connecticut. But the fact remains, we can only have people that are certified with medical control through the New Haven Sponsor Hospital program. So we can't have a break in service.
I have a question.
Can't we write it in the RFP?
Right.
That the existing contract would take place until, in the remote chance that there's another vendor that is the low bidder on this, can't it be written into the RFP that the existing service stays in place until the other one is certified and meets all of the regulations so that there is no break in service?
You can write anything you want into an RFP.
Or if the RFP was written, that they have to work with the providing.
And they have to go through our personnel, our in-town personnel.
Correct.
That's what we would also want to have to put in that RFP. We want our people.
That's currently that's the language in the current RFP now.
Okay, so we do want that, we want that to
That will
stay in
continue,
there.
correct.
I have
Yeah, so,
another
but in the
question.
remote opportunity, if there's only 2 companies, and if the remote opportunity is that the other company chooses to bid on it and is the low bid,
Right.
we want to make sure that our service doesn't end with
Obviously
Vintech
not.
until the other one.
Obviously
Well, and
not.
also it's the lowest responsible
Now,
bidder
Chief,
too, right,
say you
John?
get a call at the end of town on the Durham line, and the ambulance brings them to Middlesex.
Right.
Now, what's this with the control with the New Haven hospitals have to do if you have to go to Middlesex?
It doesn't matter where the patient is taken. The medical control, the protocols that are followed still originate through the New Haven Sponsor Hospital
Okay,
program.
so it doesn't matter what hospital
Correct.
that they're going to,
We
okay.
Go to Hartford Hospital.
Okay, I was just
Yeah, exactly.
So
curious.
you're just
Without-
communicating with that
Yeah.
hospital during the whole you're communicating with the New Haven hospital,
Right.
and you can take them wherever you
The
want.
standing protocols that the paramedics use originate through their medical control physician.
Right, okay.
Correct. Again, that's a relationship that Vintech has currently. The other vendor that potentially could bid on this doesn't have that relationship.
I take it you're very happy with Vintech.
We have an excellent working relationship with Vintech, and I think we take pride that most of the paramedics that work for us
Are our guys.
are all local
Are our guys.
personnel. Right. And it works out very well.
It does work out well. They came to my house too in the morning.
I'd like to make a motion, be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council grants an extension of the current contract with Vintech Management Services on a month-to-month basis until the purchasing agent issues a new request for proposal.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wentworth. Roll call.
Mayor Candelora.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Caprio.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Sienna.
Yes.
Okay. Item 10, citizen statements and petitions.
I have something. June 28th on Friday, Company 2's golf tournament is at Hunter Golf Course. Come out, it's a great time, and then they have a fantastic dinner, steak dinner, clams, everything at the firehouse. Great time, come on out, and it's only $120.
What's the date?
29th of June, Friday. Taking, 28th, sorry, I said that first. Taking the Friday off.
And also, I believe this Friday night, Company 2, is it, or 3? Company 3 is hosting a
Pizza.
fried dough pizza.
Yeah.
So that's a good time. I went last month, so. Anyone else? Executive session. May I have a motion to add an executive session? Please.
Yeah, there's a revised agenda that has it.
Where?
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 I had so many-
It wasn't at our desk.
Oh, no.
No.